Hello, I'm Nadine Blaney. Welcome to Media Week. Ahead on the program, over 3/4 of the population are still choosing to pick up a paper. When they're looking for the news, we'll have the latest cross-platform readership numbers ahead. And a big week for media agency OMD securing deals with Kohl's and Target. Our co-host, James Manning, editor and publisher of Media Week, is here as always to take us through all of those stories. We'll have a great chat a little bit later in the program. First, though, Australian company Switch Media has developed anti-ad blocking technology that could be a game changer with the massive increase of streaming by the public of movies, TV, sport, and content owners having their ad revenue streams really knocked around by the emergence of ad blocking apps. Here to give us some sort of an idea about what's happening in that space, as well as the AdEase solution and how it helps deliver ads to viewers, is Switch Media CEO Christopher Stenhouse. Christopher, welcome to the program. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
Just give us some sort of, I guess, scope, perspective of, you know, the problem, I guess, as you see it.
Well, I think it has increasingly become an issue of one jumping over the other. Initially, there were no ads, and then ads came in, and that was a source of monetization, because with the advent of IP video delivery, it had to be paid for somehow. And so viewers have the choice. It's either you pay for a subscription or you have the ads. Ads came in, and that provided a lifeblood for a form of getting the story out. Technology moves so fast in this industry that there's an opportunity, therefore, to do something to counter those ads. Hence, the ad blockers came, and that threatens the very lifeblood of a lot of organisations.
How prevalent are these ad blockers?
Starting to become quite significant. I mean, the estimation is that in Australia last year, about at least 1 in 5 users had already installed them. At a global scale, the estimation is there's about $22 billion in foregone revenue already. And for individual broadcasters, they can be looking at losing between 20 and 30% of their revenue.
So we're talking about video ad blocking, aren't we? I didn't even know you could get software, something to stop your video ads. I knew you could do it for your pop-up ads on your web browsing. So it's interesting, isn't it? Now, Switch Media's been around for a while, working with broadcasters on sort of IP delivery solutions, but this AdEase is a newer part of the business?
That's right, yes. I mean, we are an Australian-based world leader in streaming video technologies. So we work with any broadcaster, in fact anybody who has any video that they wish to deliver over the internet, and that may be a live service or it could be catch-up on demand. And to give you a bit of an example of what that is, your viewers today, for example, watching us have this conversation, they could be watching us on television, but they could also be watching us on their phone, on their iPad, on their laptop. And if that's the case, the stream, the images they're seeing of us talking, have been handled by our technologies, and the app that they downloaded onto their phone or their device, the Foxtel Go or Play app, was designed and built by us.
So hopefully not blocking the ads.
Yeah, no.
So do you have some clients already using this AdEase product here in Australia?
Yes, SBS has started. SBS is progressively rolling it out for its on-demand TV service. And most recently we were in NAB in Las Vegas in the States. There's an annual broadcast trade show that we appeared at this year, and we had a booth. It's to give you an idea, it's a massive exhibition. There's about 1,700 exhibitors exhibiting over about 30 hectares of space. About 100,000 people turn up over the course of 4 days. And that was where we had an opportunity for the first time to showcase AdEase at a global level, and the interest was overwhelming.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I mean, AdEase specifically targets, you know, this video ad blocking. Is there any sort of comparable product out there on the marketplace, or what's your competition?
There are other things that can do similar things. One of the things that differentiates us from competitors in the space is that they very often require you to replace an element of your existing infrastructure to be able to use it. Whereas we say, look, we don't care what you've already got in place. We will just plug in light touch software solution into what you've got there in order to help you fix this problem.
So why wouldn't broadcasters be using this technology?
Oh, they are. They are very much increasingly.
Why wouldn't
that's where I think that will happen. I think people perhaps don't recognise the significance of the problem at this stage. I mean, the good news about the technology is that it has two impacts. Firstly, it secures some revenue for broadcasters whose very viability therefore is under threat. And secondly, it's not bad news for the viewers either, because if you think about the experience you have when you're watching video at the moment, it's often quite a clunky experience that you've watched your movie and then very often the screen will go to black. And there's a bit of buffering while the ad video starts up, it plays, then it goes to black again, and then it clunkily is swung back to your original video. The way AdEase operates is it inserts the ad into the original stream, and so you are looking at really only one continuous stream, and so you have this seamless experience as a viewer from original movie transitioning to video and then back to the original movie.
So if I'm watching SBS catch up at the moment, are they using it yet, or are they
not very much. It's currently on their Apple TV, so you will experience it if you're watching SBS On Demand on Apple TV. And over the next few months, it will be rolled out to the other devices that SBS On Demand is available on.
Because that experience you're describing is exactly like watching a free-to-air catch-up service. You know, it stops, it gets a bit clunky, there's an ad, a bit of a clunk again, then the content will start again. And that's catch-up still catching on, if you like, here in Australia. A lot of broadcasters are still sort of finding their way through that market. Do they perhaps not yet see the size of the problem that confronts them?
Yeah, I think that's entirely possible, yes. But I think it is, as you say, catching on. It's something that is, I think, going to be still an explosive growth area, because traditionally it has been broadcasters who are interested in delivering over IP, over the internet, but it offers up opportunities in all sorts of other areas, in live sport. You know, very often it could be the second-tier sports. It could be netball, it could be schoolboy rugby, things that don't necessarily get a Guernsey on television, all of a sudden have an opportunity to deliver over the internet. And how do they pay for that? You know, there's an opportunity now to monetize it with something that is secured and that can't be blocked, and is also a really good experience for the viewer.
Mm. Is there any threat that there will be future technology that works counter to AdEase?
Absolutely.
I mean, you're always going to be
that's
playing
actually
catch-up,
one
right?
of the delights, frustrations, challenges of this industry, and it's part of the reason actually that we're valuable to our customers, because this whole space technology just unfolds at such a lightning pace that the value we give to our customers is this is kind of all we do. You know, we think about this day and night, and we have a lot of very smart engineers who are keeping an eye on upcoming technologies, and therefore we are in a good position to advise customers and develop products for them that are relevant. And we go, well, this is happening. Do you think that might be useful for you? And I think that will continue to be the case. So yes, we can see an enormous future in the short, medium term, I would say the next few years for AdEase. But yeah, like you, I wouldn't want to rule out the possibility that somebody's going to come up with something else that we will also have to therefore...
AdEase 2.0.
Absolutely, that we'll have to respond to.
And you must work with a lot of broadcasters developing their IP delivery. What's the broadband like? Where are we at in Australia with that? Are we at acceptable? We're doing pretty well internationally?
We're getting there, yes. I think there's still a way to go. NBN is obviously helping significantly in the rollout, and I think that becomes, as a result of that, you can just do ever more. Video was obviously the most data intensive, and therefore it was the slowest to be able to get going. But I think there's a real opportunity now as that continues to become available, that ever more people will be seeing the opportunity viably to offer video.
Because when you started the business, there's probably the major broadcasters, not a lot of people doing IP delivery of content, but now that's springing up everywhere, right?
Yep. And it's not only here, it's not only in the traditional media and broadcast space. I mean, you see also education has become quite a large adopter of it. You see it even in unexpected spaces such as transportation. So trains, planes, automobiles, the ability to watch video on your plane, to watch it while you're catching the train to work. You know, the opportunities are really significant.
Yeah. All right, Christopher, we'll have to wrap it up there. We'd love to have you back. Christopher Stenhouse, CEO of Switch Media, there joining us in studio. Coming up on Media Week, newspapers still top of the pack for news consumption. The latest cross-platform readership numbers after the break.
This is Penelope. Penelope enjoys fencing. She also enjoys investing. But she enjoys fencing more. So she uses Cashworks to find and invest in some of the major banks' most attractive term deposits. Dance time. Cashworks. It's worth it to work it.
From the moment we boarded our France River cruise, Scenic were different. They didn't want my credit card at check-in. When everything's included, it's not needed. Our luxury suite even has a butler. Fine dining after a casual lunch. Even my favourite single malt. I can't believe Scenic includes it all in the price. Yet, they do.
An 11-day France River cruise from 6945, including flights. See your Scenic agent or call 138 128.
Right now, with a new NAB personal credit card, you'll enjoy 0% on purchases and 0% on balance transfers for 15 months. Apply today.
Voltaren Osteogel 12-hourly for osteoarthritis. Unlike tablets that first go into the stomach, this gel with double strength is applied directly to the joint to give you up to 12 hours of pain relief. Voltaren Osteogel 12-hourly.
In 1 hour, you and your family will be forced to flee your home. In 2 hours, in screaming crowds, you will lose your child. In just 1 minute, you can help, and we urgently need you to. Girls like Monica need you. She has seen horrors no child should see. Horrific screams haunt her. Escaping his living hell, Joseph lost his mother. Lost grip of her hand. He's scared he'll never see her again. Please give $13 a month to help those who have lost everything. These families have done no wrong. When people have nowhere left to run, UNHCR protects them. When children feel no one cares, we help them. We make sure they get food, water, medical care. That can be the difference between life and death. Please call 1300-665545 now. Give $13 a month to help those who have lost everything.
Well, you're the Co, I'm the Jones.
Can't be Co forever, can I? People are working out I'm here every week. But Alan, we've got a new mission statement for this election campaign.
Yes?
Keep the public awake. It's getting a bit boring and tedious, isn't it? We're like the old days where they'd ring the bell to wake people up in the town.
You've been through one of these.
That was a 6-week campaign.
Did it seem like 16 weeks?
Well, it did, 600. But I did a calculation the other day. This campaign will have 220 media cycles. All the fun's here.
All the action's here.
With Latham
and Jones.
Welcome back. Our co-host James Manning, editor and publisher of Media Week, is here. Just to set the scene, though, before we have a chat, when it comes to consuming news media content, newspapers are still king. The latest Emma data showing that newspapers remain the most popular platform, with more than 3/4 of the population picking up a copy. Just over 70% of Australians consumer web and device-based news content, with the total audience for news media holding steady at 16.7 million. So let's talk to James Manning about this one. So yeah, we're still reading newspapers in a big way. Audience for news media steady.
Yeah, it's pretty big, isn't it? We had Chief Executive Mark Hollins in here last week. Maybe he was 1 week early.
Yeah.
But this data sort of embargoed every month, and it just came out this week, the new data. Yeah, and just, you know, enforcing what Mark told us last week, that there's still a massive big audience there for people, you know, reading their hard copy or reading the websites from the newspaper publishers.
Yeah, and not only that, but Mark Hollins was talking to us about a lot of the research that they put out on a weekly basis, and you know, really sort of reaffirming some of that as well, showing that 95% of executives responsible for business decisions are still picking up papers.
Yeah, you talk about influences in society, and they're you know, a lot of companies really want to target people making those big buying decisions. That's your prime
advertisers
audience.
Take note. And good numbers for the SMH in there, for example. We can take a look at some of the readership
The single
numbers.
biggest news brand figures there for the Sydney Morning Herald, you know, just nearly 6 million people there. I think this is across a 4-week period. the News Corp tabloid papers and their websites, the Telegraph and the Herald Sun, the Age and the Australian. What's not on the list is things like news.com.au, which doesn't have a print product, so that doesn't fall into this category. But otherwise, that would be up there too.
Okay, interesting figures. Let's talk other news in the space right now, because we've had developments that News Corp is up against private equity and some Asian investors to acquire APN News and Media's regional publishing business, I should say. So what's the game plan here? Is the end game for News Corp, if they emerge the successful bidder, consolidation?
Yeah, look, absolutely. These APN News and Media is very big. It's northern New South Wales and Queensland, where all these newspapers are. News Corp already have things like the Townsville Bulletin, the Cairns Post. So if they could sort of bolt on all these other big regional news, Queensland print properties, could really make a good offer to advertisers, and they could be cost savings at the back of house stuff.
So $50 to $60 million price tag. Do you think that News Chief Michael Miller will be willing to pay up that much?
Yeah, well, it's just it comes down to, will it be a competitive bidding scenario, if he's the really only interested party, and we hear there's some private equity, also one of the other people interested, then you might have to pay that. But if you're the only bidder, it's going to be hard maybe to get what some people think those properties are worth.
Okay, we've had another round of redundancies at the Fairfax papers, and some pretty senior journalists and editors leaving there.
Yeah, Dominic White, well known in the media space, their media writer. A lot of people watch this show would read his stuff. He's departing. Alan Mitchell has been around a long time, the AFR, and down in Melbourne, Susan Caboni, one of the long-time journalists at The Age.
Been there for 20 years or so.
Yeah.
Michael West as well, the business pages.
So a lot of experience walking out the door. But then we've heard from Greg Highwood, look, they just need to get their costs down. They need to have the people who remain sort of working a bit harder at generating content.
Yeah, and there wasn't the response to the voluntary redundancy program, I think, that they were obviously hoping for.
Yeah, they had to sort of go a bit beyond that.
And it's interesting, given that environment, that we're hearing from Alan Kohler at the Australian Business Review saying that all publishers will eventually be publishing only on the weekends. I mean, that's a scenario that's been sort of thrown out there on a number of fronts.
Yeah, it does seem the way to go. But then still this week you look at some of those, some of the weekday readership for those print products, and they're still pretty good, The actual numbers are shrinking, but the pass-on readership, there's still some pretty big audiences, and, if they could market it to sort of those key advertisers perhaps a little bit better, they might be able to, secure their future. But you're going to have to wait till the audience decides. But the audience just stops cold buying those weekday editions, when they'll bail out of them pretty quickly, I think.
In other sort of media moves in the newspaper space, we've got Errol Simper penning his final column. This is an end of an era at the Australian, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Look, he's been there a long time at the Australian, a media writer at the paper for a long, long time. I think he might have been editing the media section when it first started there. 1999 rings a bell. He could have been in charge of that when it first started. So he's signed off. But Chris Mitchell's rejoining the paper. He was the former editor-in-chief of the Australian for a long time. He's going to come back with a weekly column, and he'll sort of take over from Errol, I think, on Mondays.
Okay, so in the media space, or?
Yeah, I think, well, it'll be in the media section, I think. So I'm gathering it'll be, media stuff. So it should be quite an interesting read.
Interesting. Well, let's turn our attention to television, shall we? It appears that SBS is struggling to find a venue, excuse the pun, for, was unintended, for Struggle Street.
Yeah, look, it was its most watched show. Now, it was back in 2013, I think, since it's been on. Was it 2013 or 2014?
I think it was 2014.
Yeah, it wasn't on last year. It looks like it won't be on this year. One of the problems is finding a location where people will let you in to film it.
Yeah, because they don't want their suburb denigrated.
Well, yeah, but if you actually watch the show, I don't think that's a problem. They're actually very sympathetic to the characters they portray and their lives they sort of chronicle. So I think it's got some really... It suffers for some really bad media at the time. It just got... People didn't understand what they were doing, what they were trying to do. So people really need to look at the show, I think. And hopefully SBS will be able to do that when they talk to... the councils. They'll go in and point out, try and get across what they really want to achieve here.
Speaking of SBS, the big one for SBS, Eurovision. Success for Demi Im, the Australian contender. Still don't get why she's in Eurovision, but that's okay. But also pretty successful for SBS. They had a good strategy, I think.
Yeah, they did. Look, it was, look, Australia coming second. Who would have thought? I think we were top 5 last year. Where will it go from here? But the, SBS, the audience for the evening broadcast of the final was actually down a little bit year on year, but the big growth was in the early morning audience. People wanted to see how dummy was going in the voting, and, you know, we looked like we were going to win it for so long. We lost at the final sort of hurdle, but still it was a great result coming second. Next year we'll possibly be competing in a sort of a Pan-Asian Eurovision, if you like.
So,
Asian Vision or whatever name they come up with. I think that's Australia's future in the singing contest. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually don't go back to Eurovision if they get this Asian competition off the ground.
Yeah, interesting. Now, we have House of Bond. I know, James, you're really looking forward to this one. It's begun filming. It's all very hush-hush, though.
Yeah. Look, they don't want to sort of raise any hackles. They've the production company CJZ. They did they've sort of specialised in a lot of these mini-series. So the fact that this is about someone who's no longer living is a little bit easier for them to work on, because they're less likely to get lawsuits.
Yeah, excellent. Now we have the Great Aussie Bake Off. We've got production underway.
Yeah, for Foxtel, Fremantle Media Australia make that. They tried a version for Nine, a free-to-air version. Wasn't that successful, but it's done really well. It's sort of segued across to Foxtel. The format works really well. It's massive in a lot of other markets, particularly in the UK. It's one of the biggest shows of the year, so Foxtel working on the second season.
Okay, and we've got Nine. It's going to be carrying netball.
Yeah, look, just announced late this week, there's going to be a new national netball competition, sort of one of the biggest sports in Australia. So if they can get sort of this away on TV, it could be a real win for Nine here. They're going to be, I think, broadcasting 2 games a week. I think it's an 8-team competition around Australia.
I think it's a great show to watch on TV. Okay, let's get to the ratings for week 20 for free to air. And The Voice. I almost can't say that without singing, the tagline. Well, I'll spare you all, though.
Well, the marketers are doing a very good job on you, Nadine. And yeah, look, The Voice is only 2 episodes a week on at the moment, so it's doing very well to get in that top 5.
And then on the next page, you see MasterChef Australia getting in there as well.
Yeah, it's holding up, just doing fantastic business for 10 this year, and it's a really important part of their mid-year offering.
Okay, and we'll get to some of the sports. This is top 5 sports.
Yeah, again, it's all AFL and NRL this week. Just one AFL game, and I think there's 4 NRL games there. We'll see.
And
it's Super Saturday. It's one of the programs that links the matches.
And the subscription TV ratings that are non-sport, of course.
Yep.
Game of Thrones, not surprised there. I guess all the likely scenarios.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Looks great. Just sticking in TV land, I guess we've got a few movements happening there. We've got Louise Barrett departing Network 10. She was instrumental in that whole MCN partnerships, wasn't she?
Yeah, look, she was been there for about 3 years, sort of ran the ad sales there, was there when MCN moved in, took over the ad sales. I guess she helped sort of changed the business when it went across to sort of an outside representation company. She did a bit of I think she had a management role there, but she's decided to move on. I spoke to her briefly this week. She said she's got a few irons in the fire, but nothing to announce yet.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you'll keep us posted. Yep. And an Aussie expat, I think, returning to run
Michael Carrington, ABC. Head of Children's and Education. A really big area for the ABC. It's very successful in its children's programs.
So what experience is he bringing back with him?
Well, he's worked here, he's worked in the UK, so on a whole range of different sort of programs, and I think it's one area that the ABC, it's part of their charter that nobody argues with. There's quite a bit of friction about some of the areas they get into, but a lot of people think, look, they've got a real place in that children's television, so that's less contentious.
Well,
part
it's
of the
on
business.
at my house, so often. Let's just move to other media, because we've mentioned it off the top. A really great week for OMD Media Agency, signing up some really big names. Yeah, look, it's fantastic for them. We're talking about $150 million plus week, getting up towards $200 million in terms of the billings that they've secured for the agency. The new business is Coles and Target, part of Wesfarmers. They're sort of separate businesses, but they were sort of briefed together, they were pitched together, so presumably they were always going to go to the same
agency, but OMD have picked up both of those, and they've also secured the Village Roadshow business where they were the incumbent. Village Roadshow, a very big advertiser, so it's a good client to have. Of course, they're in the movie business. The way you get people into the cinemas is advertising, spending big money on advertising, and OMD have secured that too till the next time they go up to pitch.
Good for them. Let's just talk about YouTube Red now. I asked you sort of off air. What is it? What's different about it? Why would I pay for it?
Yeah, well, you'd pay for it if you're a YouTube fan, right? And let's face it, a lot of people spend a lot of time watching YouTube. This will give you ad-free content.
So, right.
So to some people it mightn't seem a big deal, but I guess if you watch a lot of YouTube, and if they only sort of transition over a small percentage of their audience, it's going to start generating some significant revenue. It's $12 a month. I think there's a $10 initial offer, but then the standard price will be $12. But they'll also be curating some exclusive content, which will be sort of behind a YouTube paywall.
We don't know yet if that's going to be television, TV shows, or if it could be just.
Yeah, no, I think initially it's some sort of documentary footage, or some sort of extra music content, stuff like that. But yeah, depending on how successful this platform is, then it could sort of grow into being,
Interesting that Australia is the first market outside of the US to get this YouTube Red.
Absolutely. But it's still there's still really, just toe in the water here to see how it goes, I think.
Okay, James, we'll do it all again next week.
Thanks, Nadine.
James Manning. He is the editor and publisher of Media Week. And that's all we have time for this week from the team here. Thanks for your company.